I want you to become aware of those deep boundaries, and those deep boundaries are there holding us gripped tightly. So it's a really easy concept. So what we're going to do to start with, I know this is a different way of starting the class, but what we're going to do is to take our blanket, so hopefully you've got a blanket or something you can raise the spine on. And I'm just going to get a foam pad, so hopefully you've got the foam pads too. And then I'm going to place this here, like that. So I've got a little bit of support, and then I'm going to support my spine. So I'm going to be in this position because I want to teach my body how to start to work very deeply. Isn't it an odd thing that I'm saying this and I'm getting ready for this lovely supine action? But I really want to say to my body, well, look here, you know, are you relaxed or are you tense? Very interesting. So I'm going to straighten the legs. We know that we've got to get that length through the center of the body first, and already that brings a little bit of tension. I'm going to let the heels come together and then let the legs roll. Now what I want you to do is to get yourself into this position. So you need a little bit of height underneath the head, a little bit of comfort underneath the spine, and everything, the side waist, everything needs to calm down. So we're just going to come into this Shavasana action for observation. So a really good pose to just lie there and think, oh, am I trying to push my chest, but am I gripping my muscles? So there are times where we do need to give our body that support, but what we tend to do is to shorten the muscle. So what I want you to observe in your positioning today, in this Shavasana action, is exactly what's going on. So we're just going to go through a couple of exercises which will help you to understand that exactly. So what you want to do is to see that the back of the shoulders, the back of the shoulder blades are weighting down. So they're becoming fairly heavy. They're weighted, they're releasing, they're getting that really nice feeling of softness. And when we get that softness, we can breathe into all of that area. So be aware of the belly and what's happening in the abdomen and the side waist. Are you holding your abdomen really tightly, or are you able to just let it completely release? So those of you who are struggling with this and you want to get on with action, you have to learn these basic principles before you work on very intense poses. Not saying that we're going to be working on intense poses, but I want you to become aware of what's happening in your body. What are you trying to create in your body? A shape by tensing and shortening, or a complete support by releasing and lengthening? So release and length is where we're going to today. I just wanted you to have a feel of that and see exactly how that is for you in your body. It's very interesting. So just a couple of breaths, just find that peace within your muscular body, and hopefully you'll be able to take that into your practice today. All right, so enough of that Shavasana. We don't want you to get overly comfortable, so roll to your right side and then come up. So I'm crossing the legs now. Now I'm going to place, don't worry those of you who've got difficulty with your knees, it's no problem at all. So, well, this would be a problem for sure, but I will show you an alternative that you can come to. So I want you to sit in this action where you've got your foot on the inside or the lower area of the leg. All right, so for those of you who find it really challenging, so if you're bending your right leg in like this, it's very difficult to get that leg bent. So what you want to do is to get a lift underneath here now. So you can still have the bent leg here, but you're going to see if you can get this action. Now, it might be that we find a little bit of support. So those of you who have difficulty with this action, you've got one leg nearly bent, fine. This leg is still quite challenging. If you've got two difficult knees, then you come into this action and you try to really get this length here. So you've got to move that groin deeply in. Now that goes also for those of you who are in this action. So it doesn't change, the action is pretty similar. You've got to see that this area, this groin, moves deeply in. So you've got to lift up out of your pelvis and see how much space you get. So some of you have been sitting nicely, some of you are just in the pose. Come to the second side now and release. So come to the second side. So some of you who are finding it difficult with your legs, don't worry about it. You can come into this action. You might find one leg works more than the other, but those of you who find that bend of the knee really challenging, then you can come into this action, but still you've got to get that movement there. So lots of lift out of the pelvis, lots and lots of lift out of the pelvis. For those of you who are not doing, you're doing the other form, the other action, this is the pose. So it's quite a challenging pose because it really does challenge the tightness around the outer hip. So this is really a key thing today, is how much can we get this movement around this outer hip region. So it doesn't come without its challenges for sure. All right. So once you've done both sides, then you can release. So do practice this week. Even those of you who find it difficult to bend your knees, then do have a go at the alternative, because it will still help very much get this weighted down in this action. All right, so just have a look now. I'm going to grab a belt. Now, those of you who find forward bending really a bit of a job, this is why we do lots of standing work, but today we're doing it slightly differently. If you find coming forward is a no-go area for you, this is a hinging forward, this is subtle action. Now you can tell where your groins are in your body, how far you can move forward. So you can move forward without using your spine. You want to use your body groins. Now if that's not happening very well, you can see here I've got a bit of a lift. I've got a blanket. You can put a blanket underneath your bottom, or you can actually use a foam pad. That would work quite well as well. So I'm using the blanket so that it's gonna, I got more room in my groins. So those of you who work with no equipment, it would be worth you having a little go with some support. Now I've got my belt here. Now I know I can reach my feet, but do a better pose with the belt. So those of you with hyperextended knees, you've got to see that you get more lift in the inner groin, and this should help you to alleviate that problem. Now, when you're in this position, you want to pull and lift up out of the pelvis. So you've got to ground down into the back of the thigh. And you can see that the hinge is really such a challenging pose. A forward bending action to do well is really a job to do. So we're going to come forward a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So you want to see that you completely connect with this groin action. So opening those groins at the beginning of the class was really important. Now what we've got to do here is to see that we're getting as much backward action as we are going up. So as you draw back with those inner groins, you've got to see they go into a very deep dimension. All right, well done, and release him. All right, so what we're going to do now is to have some support like this. So we're just coming into these actions so that you get a little bit familiar with some of these forward bending actions, very strong actions, I would say. All right, so what I'm going to do is lie down first and then place the support so it's just touching the buttock like that. So when I'm here, I'm not on it, but just the lower part of the buttock, I am on it. This has still got to be underneath your bottom. And you can take this belt around your feet like that and still keep this back buttock onto the supports like that. I'm going to see that I bring the legs. Now, I want to hold on to the legs. Now, the main thing here is that you're softening, you're learning to soften your groin. You're using the pose to teach your body to lengthen. And what you don't want to do is to see that you're teaching your body to pull and really aggressively work. You want to see that the back of the buttock is moving towards the support. Let the elbows go out and just see. Try not to control it. Just see if you can unfold the action. Some of you may get to the point where you can just hold on to the legs. You can just hold on to the legs. And just let those back muscles lengthen. Psoas muscle lengthen. All of this. So with this, it stops you going so far because what normally happens is we take the bottom up with the legs. But this way, you've got to keep your bottom onto the support. So it's a really valuable tool. All right, so now sit in Dandasana. Sit in Dandasana again. And so now we're sitting in Dandasana. If you can go without support, do so. But otherwise, if you think you need to sit on a foam pad or two, then do so. So what we're going to do is go back to the bent leg position. So we're coming for Janu Sirsasana. Now, I try not to touch my knees in this. I like to get this outward rotation. And I want to try to keep this flank side of the leg down. So that's quite a difficult one because what happens is that as we come into this pose, we manage to cheat. So I can take the leg like this and like that. But you can see that my flank now is facing that way. And I want this area to face towards the floor. So it's a really big ask. It's a really big ask. Okay, so what tends to happen is when we come forward, we forget about levelizing internally. So we can do a lot of gross actions on the outside, but what we want to do is come forward a little bit, see that we're getting a groin action and get this turn in action. And as we turn, this will help to rotate this leg a little bit more. And also this foot faces up towards the ceiling. And this is where we go to. So you want to see that everything is moving very deeply and see that you use your outer foot or a belt around your outer foot to get more of this turning action. You want to see that this hip comes round. It comes round like that. And then we gradually come. You can take the hands in this position and then extend towards your leg. Now, if towards your leg is not coming, which is quite often the case, then we have to see that we come to here, this halfway. It's really good to just put your head on something because it allows you to understand this work of this thigh. So you get the idea where we're going to. So what you want to do, as long as your leg is doing that, and then you're letting that flank face backwards, that flank has got to really get that turn. It's got to really get that turn like that. This is a bit of a stiff leg for me. And then you've got to ground down. Okay, let's do the other side. So I will turn myself around so you can see. All right. So when we're here, you've got to see that You get in this rotation, this turning. Get your hand, give it a little bit of a help in hand, and get this turning. So when you're here, then you got to see, can you pick the leg? Maybe there is a bit of a stiff side for you and a little bit more challenging depending. But what you want to do is to be sure that this outer thigh is going down. You're sensing that and feeling it. And then we've got to turn towards the leg side. So this is really quite an important action, turning towards the leg. And then again, same thing. We've got to just wait for a few moments. Don't go into it yet. Wait for a few moments and get this turning action. Then when we come forward, we're coming forward and holding. Holding. Getting this turning action. Okay, so you get the idea. You've got to get all of that rotation, really strong action, and then see if you can come to the forward action. See if you can come to that forward part. So coming forward, having your arms in that cross position, or you can hold onto a belt. You know how to change the action, so we can hold this way, like this if there's a problem. It's not a big issue. Whatever you can do, wherever you can get to is really key here. We have to just keep that honesty in our practice. All right, so keep that action nicely. Keep that understanding. And then releasing. So it's a very, very strong action. All right, so those of you who can come for Paschimottanasana, you're going to take the legs a little apart. You always get a good Paschimottanasana after those. If you need to have a little bit of support to throw you forward, then fine, have some support. Otherwise, just take hold of your feet. Now, see that all the work we've been doing, you've got to ground down, put some energy into those legs, push the thigh bones down very strongly so you get the hinge. You get the hinge. So breathe, soft inhalation, exhalation. Let the head rest down really nicely. Well done. And just be there for a few moments. Okay. So come into your position and take your time with this. So those of you who've rushed into it, I want you to bend your knees again, soften your belly, keep your legs together and just wait. Wait for the body to settle. Wait for the back of the pelvis to settle. A nice soft inhalation. And now lifting the toes, scrape those heels along the floor. And then finally releasing the legs and letting the eyes settle, letting the throat become soft. Releasing the abdomen, soft inhale and exhale. Just let yourself completely surrender towards the earth side. Oh, that's so lovely. I could really get used to that pose. So just where we started the class, but this time acknowledge your Shavasana, acknowledge where there's tension, acknowledge where there's tightness, and just let the whole body completely release and relax. Become aware of your breath, your inhalation and your exhalation. And just really savor this moment of quietness. Letting the whole body become deeply connected with the earth. So it's a really stable, really solid action. So for today, I'm going to leave you in Shavasana. Really enjoy this pose. And become aware this week of your forward bending and how deep you need to go to get those very connected actions. So I will leave that with you this week. Enjoy your practice. Enjoy your Shavasana. I'd look forward to seeing you next time. Namaste.